Hello, stress management students. This particular lecture, in this particular lecture, we're going to be completing the section that I've entitled Stress and the Body. And before we get started with that, I wanted to just let you know that I am, for the most part, going to be able to stay with the original course syllabus evaluation in terms of activities, exams, and how you're earning your grade in here. There will be a couple of changes, of course, with for example, clicker questions. Um, we can't do those right now. And so what I'm doing is I'm substituting in weekly quizzes to help you recover some of the points that you would have earned through clicker questions. Uh, the um, the number of questions I'm utilizing in quizzes is going to be fairly close to what would have been offered through clicker questions, and the challenge or difficulty level will be very, very similar. And hopefully, you noticed with last week's quiz, I'm giving you a couple of attempts with the quizzes. They're untimed. You can use notes, the videos, anything that you'd like, you can use on those quizzes. So I'm hoping for most people, they end up being 100% quizzes. How many quiz questions you have in a week could vary. Last week you had 10. And this week I haven't written the quiz yet, but it may be closer to 15. I'm not really sure yet. So that's why you're seeing those quizzes. Um, another thing that I wanted to go ahead and talk to you right now before we complete this section is your second exam. It actually covers three areas: stress in the body, the documentary, and the stress emotions. So, with this short lecture, we'll be finishing up stress in the body. And last week was very much devoted to the documentary. I plan to post another lecture for this week that'll get us started with the stress emotions. Now, what I'm anticipating at this time is that your second exam will be within your week 9 module. And, I also want to remind you the exams are cumulative. I'm going to go ahead and keep them that way. So anything that we've just discussed in prior sections could appear on the exams. So I'm trying to keep that very much the same because I know you guys can do this. Yeah, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else regarding your evaluation that I might want to fill you in on. Okay, another thing, if by the time you view this video, you're not noticing any updates to your grades online, it's coming. What I still need to do is upload the points you had earned to date before we switched over to online. And I'm in the process of getting that done. So hang in there. Maybe by the time you view this, it will have happened. So just if those are a few general announcements, and we're going to go ahead and get going and finish up this section on stress in the body. We've got just a little bit remaining to cover. So I liked this graphic, and I'm hoping that some of you have, or all of you have maybe given a little more thought to um, what might be those physical symptoms or physical discomforts that you experience, and that you feel are probably related to stress. And, are they headaches? Do you have problems with your back? Are the issues digestive? Problems with your complexion? It can be a wide range of things. Do you actually experience flare-ups related to old injuries or um, health-related conditions that you have? So, and I want to emphasize once again that, I think that we could look at this as our body's way of communicating to us that we maybe need to adjust, we might need to slow down, we might need to begin creating or adjusting some of our boundaries. And this is kind of the approach that I like to take if my body, some aspect of my body is not feeling well. Um, I just accept that as a message that I need to adjust. Once upon a time ago, I would have just plowed right through it and went ahead and done whatever I wanted to do, irregardless of what my body was telling me. And I don't do that anymore. And I had to learn the hard way. And speaking of the hard way, this documentary that you all watched last week, Stress Portrait of a Killer, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you found it interesting. Um, I thought so much about it was, just incredibly interesting, all the different ways that stress can impact our health, also the research that's going into it. I thought that was just incredibly cool. All the information on social hierarchy, if you're higher versus lower on a social hierarchy, how that can impact your stress level, or if you live in areas that where there is more crime, or perhaps there are more struggles with being lower socioeconomic class. So, and the struggles there can range from the stress that's produced and just trying to make a living to access to health care. There can be all types of stressors that are related to socioeconomic class. All right. So, with regard to symptoms of stress, we're really focusing in right now on this particular area, the physical symptoms. And, what is important to understand, and I'm sure you guys do, is that there are cognitive symptoms, there are emotional symptoms, and then there's this other category that's called behavioral symptoms. And um, with cognitive, emotional, and behavioral, you're going to see that we start getting into that a bit more as we move forward. This next section on anger and fear, we'll be looking at cognitive, emotional, and behavioral symptoms. Also, the section on uh, personality characteristics, stress prone versus stress resistant personality characteristics. You're going to see the connection to these cognitive, emotional, and behavioral symptoms. However, just to, kind of stay with this particular area of physical symptoms, there was one other issue that I wanted to present, and it gets listed actually as a behavioral symptom, and I think it fits definitely as a behavioral symptom, but I think it could also be listed in the physical symptom category. And this is the issue of sleep, you know, ensuring that we're meeting our sleep needs and also paying attention to if we're perhaps sleeping too much. And so I think, in terms of reaction to stress, stress can affect our sleep patterns in both ways. I know that one of the pretty common things that can go with being overly stressed or experiencing anxiety is feeling extremely tired and oversleeping. But I also know that sometimes when we're very stressed, perhaps we're worrying a lot or we have too much on our plates, um, at night when we lay down and hope to be able to fall asleep, our minds can be racing. And so we can get into this cycle of not being able to get enough sleep. So that's the area we're going to be looking more so at, this area of sleep and insomnia. And first of all, with insomnia definition, insomnia is considered poor quality sleep, abnormal wakefulness, or it could be the inability to fall asleep. It could also be the inability to remain asleep. I know for some people, their problems with insomnia are mostly related to falling asleep. For others, it can be a combination of that and then an inability to, once they do fall asleep, to actually stay asleep. And the primary cause, what's considered to be the number one cause of insomnia, is emotional stress. And, you know, what I want to also mention at this time, though, is if you are having sleep problems, this is another area where it would be very important to talk to your doctors, or to your doctor, because there can be a lot of different reasons for difficulty falling asleep, or staying asleep. It just so happens that emotional stress tends to be the primary cause, but you'd want to check in, with a doctor. There are some things that we can do to help ourselves, if we're having some periodic challenges with falling asleep, or if we're trying to change our lifestyles a bit to see if we can resolve it with lifestyle adjustments. And the two big things that we want to look at is, are we doing things that are considered sleep stealers? And are we practicing good sleep hygiene? So I would encourage you to begin to think about, are there things that you do that potentially interrupt your ability to grab a good night's sleep or to be able to fall asleep? Um, Typical sleep stealers, I think especially today, and maybe even more so right now, is taking our technology to bed with us. And so, if you have a problem with sleep, a general recommendation is to not take your phone to bed. Or, in my case, it would be my laptop. I'm more connected with my laptop than my phone. So getting rid of that technology, also actually turning it off and disconnecting from our technology. It may be 30 minutes or an hour before you go to bed. This would be something I think that could be really important to check in with. Other typical sleep stealers might include continuing to drink caffeinated beverages well into the evening. Um, I would say another sleep stealer could be related to working and doing other work related tasks in bed. Ideally, your bed is a place for sleep. It isn't the place that you do work, that you do homework, um, and other things. So, really designating that bed as the rest sleep area and eliminating those things that we could classify as sleep stealers. I know a sleep stealer, for me, can be getting, it's related to technology, but it can be getting too hung up in streaming episodes of, it could be on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, whatever. And a lot of our work with these sleep stealers, it really does come down to self-discipline, and another way to phrase this might be our ability to parent ourselves. ourselves. So can we set these rules or these boundaries with ourselves and change these behaviors that aren't helping us? Now, good sleep hygiene, just looking at some general recommendations for good sleep hygiene, this is going to give us further hints about what we can do to improve our sleep quality. And this recommendation right here, keep a routine sleep and waking schedule. When I see that one, I feel instant rebellion because I like to be able to keep my own hours. I don't, especially when I'm not working. But I also notice when I get off a schedule, that's when I have more problems with sleep. So this actually means doing your best to go to sleep at the same time every night and getting up at the same time in the morning. And this would include even on weekends when you're not working or you're perhaps not taking care of other obligations. The idea is to keep that schedule. I think another thing I'd like to toss in, right now is this suggestion right here. It says get daylight exposure bright and early. So, opening the windows or getting outside early in the morning, this can help your body kind of understand on a more physiological level that it's daytime, it's time to be awake. And then at night, keeping your bedroom dark, that's a part of telling your physiology it's now nighttime time to sleep. And, wearing a sleep mask can also help with the idea of keeping things dark. Exercise. Exercise is considered to be something that can really help with sleep quality and also managing stress in general. Exercise tends to improve mood. And, when it comes to utilizing, wanting to get that benefit of better sleep, something that I think would be pretty important would be finding the time of day to exercise that works best for you. Exercising at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night is probably going to increase energy, and that may not be real helpful in terms of falling asleep. I think this is going to be different for each individual, but including exercise in your daily routine. Okay, and on down here, you guys, this would be another way to maybe work with this, using those relaxation techniques at night before preparing to go to bed. It takes most of us a bit of a transitional period to actually be able to fall asleep. If you're falling asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're probably not getting enough sleep. But then if you're laying there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour and a half, that's when, we're looking more at that's too long. In fact, the recommendation is, and I've read 20 minutes or 30 minutes either way, but if you've laid in bed for 20 to 30 minutes and you're not falling asleep, the recommendation is to go ahead and get up and do something maybe more mundane. Maybe it's read a book, something that isn't going to be incredibly stimulating mentally until you feel tired, and then go back to bed. Okay, staying in bed and struggling isn't recommended. So, just some ideas for getting a better night's sleep or for helping us fall asleep more easily. There's one other thing that I like to mention when it comes to how stress can impact sleep. Um, I don't know how many of you will be familiar with sleep paralysis these days. Unfortunately, I guess I tend to, and most students are familiar with it. And when I first started talking about sleep paralysis and stress management, almost no students knew what sleep paralysis was. But sleep paralysis, first of all, what it is it generally will happen in the process of waking up. And you will mentally feel like you're awake, but your body is in a somewhat frozen state. You can't move. Um, the emotions that go with sleep paralysis are usually more fearful or panicky emotions. During sleep paralysis, some people hallucinate, or they'll imagine. A typical imagining that can happen in sleep paralysis is imagining that there's someone else in the room with you or close by. During sleep paralysis, what can happen is you will try to yell out for help or scream for help, but you can't move and you can't speak. It can almost feel suffocating. Um, and what's happening is you're just not moving through the sleep cycle and coming out of it the way that we normally do. You're not in danger. This doesn't, there's no physical harm that will come from this, but it's a stressor. It's a stressful event, and ironically, you know, there are two things that are considered uh, to be more likely to cause episodes of sleep paralysis. The first, emotional stress. So, and I know for me, I've had some short periods of time in my life where I've had um, some episodes of sleep paralysis. And when I look back, wow, it was happening to me at times where I was experiencing a lot of stress. The other cause can be being overly fatigued, which is a stressor, by the way. Okay, so yeah, so I still on occasion will have students who this has occurred with them, but they did not know that it had a name. And I would encourage you, if you're curious, you could search sleep paralysis and read a bit more about it. It's something that doesn't necessarily happen every night. It can happen on occasion. It may happen once and never happen again. So that's sleep paralysis. Okay, so this is the end of this section, and we're ending with, well, what is considered the best way to address stress-related illness or stress-related ailments? And what is considered the best approach is to utilize Western medicine and a holistic approach. So, what that basically is meaning is use all those invaluable resources that we have within Western medicine. Um, See a doctor. Um, it's very possible they would want to do testing, and to me it's just very wise to take advantage of all that really valuable testing and the help that we can get through Western medicine. Now, with Western medicine, a lot in the past, especially, I think it's gotten viewed in a harsher way as a way to simply address symptoms, and perhaps just to medicate symptoms versus actually dealing with what's causing the illness or causing the ailment. What I find personally these days is that Western medicine is now addressing potential causes much more so and recommending lifestyle changes. I have not been experiencing in recent years, at least with the physicians that I see, a tendency to just want to prescribe a pill and not deal with what maybe is causing things. However, I know I get students who say a variety of things when we talk about this issue. A more holistic approach, we're talking about with a holistic approach, really addressing all aspects of how we live, the choices that we're making. It could be the amount of exercise we get, it could be some of the daily habits that we have, it could be our nutrition. It could also be our relationships. Are they healthy? Do we need to establish new boundaries? A holistic approach, could include a number of possibilities from new nutritional plans to different exercise plans to counseling. Um, so, there are many things that could be considered in this holistic approach, but the main thing is this: we do want to address symptoms and causes. Um, of course, we want to be addressing the cause and the root cause and try to eliminate the cause. But the symptoms, if we don't address symptoms, the symptoms themselves can also produce stress. So, assistance to reduce symptoms can also be very helpful. A couple of ways that we address root causes through stress management is by developing effective coping skills. And wow, we're going to be getting into that much more in the next section. Another way that we address this in a more holistic way is through the use of effective relaxation techniques. Um, Practicing relaxation techniques is a way of taking care of ourselves, both physically and emotionally. Physically, when we perform relaxation techniques, we're helping our body return to homeostasis. And that's very, very important. We're also providing ourselves with a bit of a mental break. We're helping our bodies achieve a more relaxed muscular state, which helps reduce stress and tension. So, so yes, when we run into these obstacles, that are health related challenges, it's very important, see a doctor, rule out uh, physical and physiological medical concerns, address those, but also then seek to address root causes and utilize these stress management skills that we have learned and what we will be learning. So this wraps up the section on stress and the body. And whatever time of the day it may be, for all of you, I hope you have a really good rest of your day. And when you get to the next lecture, I really hope you enjoy it. And we're moving into a section that I think is a lot of fun and very interesting. I also wanted to say, truly miss all of you and seeing you in person. And I hope you are doing well. All right. Talk with you soon.